My name is Tracy Moore, and I am 32 years old. I ended a 2-year relationship in about 11 minutes. And honestly, the longest part was waiting for my boyfriend to put his shoes on. Some background. I've had the same core friend group since high school. 4 women: Madison, Claire, Olivia, and Jasmine. We met freshman year, survived group projects, bad haircuts, worse boyfriends, and one terrible road trip in 2014, where Olivia's car broke down in the middle of nowhere, and somehow made us closer, instead of ending the friendship permanently. Those women were my people, 15 years deep. We had a standing Thursday night thing. It used to be volleyball at the rec center. Now it was mostly sitting in someone's living room, eating wings, drinking cheap wine, and arguing about things that absolutely did not matter but somehow felt important at the time. We were in our 30s now. The knees went first, then the patience, then the illusion that any of us had life figured out. My boyfriend, Ryan Calder, moved in with me 8 months ago. At first, things were solid. He got along with my friends, or at least he pretended to. He sat with us on Thursdays sometimes, laughed at the jokes, even brought homemade guacamole once, which was genuinely incredible and earned him more goodwill than he probably deserved. But about 4 months in, something shifted. It started with small comments. "Don't you think it's a little immature that you girls still hang out every single week?" I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Then it became, "Madison talks about her office drama like it's national news." Then, "Claire texts you too late." Then, "Olivia depends on you way too much." Oh, then, the one that stuck with me. "I feel like you act different around them, like you're still 17. I brushed it off at first. I told myself Ryan just needed time to adjust to my rhythm, to my friendships, to the fact that I had people in my life who knew me long before he did. But the comments got more frequent, more specific. He didn't like when Madison called me after a hard day at work. He didn't like when Jasmine sent memes to the group chat at midnight. He especially didn't like when the group chat was active during what he called quality time, which apparently meant any time we were breathing in the same room. So I started making little concessions. I silenced the group chat at night, put my phone on Do Not Disturb during dinner, skipped a couple Thursdays. I told myself it was compromise. It was maturity. It was what people did in serious relationships. But now I know those weren't compromises. They were the first bricks in a wall Ryan was building around me. 3 weeks ago, Madison showed up at my job, my actual workplace. She had driven 20 minutes during her lunch break because, and I swear I am not being dramatic, she thought something had happened to me. "Tracy," she said, standing by the entrance with this tight panic in her face. "Are you alive?" I blinked at her. "What? I've texted you like 30 times. Called you. Nothing. You're not in the group chat anymore. The girls are worried. We thought maybe you were sick or hurt or something." I pulled out my phone to prove her wrong. I opened my messages. Her entire text thread was gone. Not unread, not hidden, gone. I checked the group chat. I had been removed. I checked my call log. Her number had been blocked. Then I checked Claire. Blocked. Olivia. Blocked. Jasmine. Blocked. Every single one. And not just blocked. Their message threads were deleted. Years of conversations. Birthdays. Voice notes. Photos. Stupid jokes. The night my grandmother died and Madison stayed awake texting me until 3 in the morning. The video of Claire falling off a paddleboard. The long message Olivia sent me when I almost quit my job. All of it. Gone. I stood in the parking lot outside my office, holding my phone like it was evidence from a crime scene. Because it was. "How long have you been trying to reach me?" I asked. Madison's voice softened. "Almost 3 weeks. We all have." 3 weeks. My 4 closest friends had been trying to reach me for 3 weeks, and I had no idea because the man sleeping beside me every night had gone into my phone and surgically removed them from my life. I drove home in silence. Ryan was on the couch watching a cooking show. Normal Tuesday energy. Glass of white wine. Hair still damp from the shower. Bare feet tucked under him like this was an ordinary evening. "Hey, babe," he said without looking up. I stood in the doorway for a second, trying to understand how someone could look that calm after doing something so calculated. "Can I see your phone for a second?" I asked. He looked up. "What?" "Just want to check something." "That's weird." "No," I said. "What's weird is that all 4 of my friends are blocked on my phone. Their message threads are deleted, and I didn't do it." The cooking show suddenly became very interesting to him. He stared at the screen for 5 seconds before slowly muting it. Then he turned to face me, and this is the part that still makes my jaw clench. He didn't deny it. He didn't stammer. He didn't look shocked. He sat up straighter, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "Your friends are dragging you down. I blocked them for your own good." For my own good. Like I was a child holding scissors, like 15-year friendships were a safety hazard. "They're immature," he continued. "They keep you stuck. Every Thursday you come home smelling like hot sauce and laughing about things that don't matter. I need a partner who's growing, Tracy. Not someone who keeps reliving high school every week." I let him talk, not because I agreed, because somewhere between "for your own good" and reliving high school, something inside me went quiet. Not numb. Clear. The relationship ended right there. I was just waiting for him to stop talking so I could start packing. "You're looking out for me," I said softly. His face relaxed. "I knew you'd understand eventually." I nodded. "Yeah, and I'm looking out for me too." Then I walked into the bedroom, pulled an empty storage box from the closet, dumped my winter sweaters onto the bed, and carried the box back into the living room. Ryan watched me for about 10 seconds before his expression changed. "What are you doing? Packing your stuff?" His mouth opened slightly. "Why?" "Because you decided, without asking me, to cut off the 4 most important people in my life outside of my family. You went through my phone, blocked them, deleted years of conversations, and sat here for 3 weeks watching me not hear from my best friends." He stood up. "You're overreacting." "I'm reacting exactly the right amount." "Tracy, I was trying to help you." "No," I said. "You are trying to control me." His eyes hardened then. Just for a second. Enough for me to see the person underneath the concern. Then he softened his voice. "Baby, come on, don't do this." But I kept packing. His charger, his cologne, the book he never finished, the expensive hand cream he kept stealing from my bathroom cabinet even though he swore he hated the smell. He started crying when I reached the framed photo of us from last Christmas. Real tears, I think. But real tears after a 3-week campaign of isolation did not carry the same weight they would have before. You do not get to engineer the fire and then cry about the smoke. "You need to call someone to get you tonight," I said. He stared at me like he still believed I was bluffing. I wasn't. Ryan called his sister. She arrived an hour later and gave me a look on the way in, like I had thrown him into the street barefoot during a snowstorm. I knew she had only heard one side. People like Ryan always make sure their version arrives first. When he walked out, he turned back at the door and said, "You're going to regret choosing them over me." I looked at him. "No, Ryan. I regret not choosing myself sooner." After the door closed, I locked it. Then I unblocked all 4 of my friends. Madison picked up on the second ring. "Tracy?" I tried to answer, but my throat closed. She knew. She always knew. "Oh my God," she whispered. "What happened?" I told her everything. There was a long silence. Then she said, "He deleted our whole text history?" "Yeah." "Years of stuff?" "Yeah." Another pause. Then quieter. "That's unforgivable." She wasn't wrong. And as I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by the silence Ryan had left behind, I realized something that made my stomach turn. He hadn't just blocked my friends. He had tested how much of myself I would surrender before I noticed I was disappearing. The next few days were strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm when you're still waiting to hear another tree fall. I spent most of that week reconnecting with my friends, long phone calls, coffee dates, stories about everything I'd missed. Nobody judged me. Nobody said, "We told you so." If anything, they were gentler than I deserved. Madison finally looked at me across a coffee shop table and said, "Tracy, if somebody can convince you we're the problem, they can convince you of anything." That sentence stayed with me, because she was right. 5 days after the breakup, Ryan came to collect the rest of his belongings. I had packed everything neatly. 3 boxes, clothes, books, bathroom stuff, a framed picture of his nephew wrapped carefully in bubble wrap because breakups didn't give me permission to destroy other people's memories. Ryan arrived with his older sister, Lauren, and Lauren arrived with enough attitude to power a small city. I opened the door. Ryan stepped inside and looked at the boxes. "You moved fast." I shrugged. "You gave me a reason." His jaw tightened. Lauren crossed her arms. "You know this is pretty messed up, right?" "What is?" "Kicking him out over a misunderstanding." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I genuinely couldn't believe she said it. "A misunderstanding?" Ryan shifted uncomfortably. I continued, blocking 4 people, deleting years of messages, hiding it for 3 weeks. "That's not a misunderstanding." Lauren rolled her eyes. "He was trying to help you. By deciding who I'm allowed to talk to, you choose your friends over your relationship." I stared at her. "You met those women once. Madison brought you food because you were sitting alone at a barbecue." Lauren didn't have a response. Ryan immediately changed the subject. He started checking through the boxes, then suddenly looked up. "Where's my smartwatch?" I frowned. "What smartwatch?" "The one I left in the bedroom." I remembered packing it, specifically. I even remembered wrapping the charger around it. But when we searched the box, it wasn't there. Ryan immediately folded his arms. Interesting. The accusation hung in the air. Lauren's expression changed instantly. There it was. The look. The one that said they thought they'd caught me. I searched every box. Nothing. Ryan sighed dramatically. I knew something was missing. I felt my temper rising. Not because of the watch. Because of the performance. The implication. The setup. But I stayed calm. "Check your car," he smirked. "Sure." They left. An hour later, I sat down to review my doorbell camera footage, mostly because something felt off. And then I saw it. Clear as day. While I was carrying the 3rd box from the hallway, Lauren opened one of the boxes, reached inside, pulled out the smartwatch, slipped it into her purse, then zipped it closed. I watched the footage 3 times. Not because I didn't believe it, because I did. And somehow, that was worse. I stared at the screen, a strange numbness spreading through my chest. They hadn't just lied. They had coordinated it, planned it, expected me to look guilty. I sent Ryan a single text, saw the footage. Lauren took the watch from the box before asking where it was. 5 minutes later, he replied, "I don't know what you're talking about." 10 minutes later, "It's creepy that you're recording people." Recording people. I had a doorbell camera, like half the country. But apparently, that now qualified as surveillance. I didn't answer, because the watch wasn't the point. The point was understanding something I had been refusing to see. Ryan needed me to be the villain. Without a villain, he couldn't be the victim. And he desperately wanted to be the victim. A few days later, the messages started. People I barely knew. Co-workers of Ryan. Friends of Ryan. Even someone from a book club I'd met exactly once. Every conversation sounded similar. "Are you okay?" I heard what happened. "Ryan's really devastated." Apparently, a story was circulating. A very interesting story. According to Ryan, I had become emotionally distant. I cared more about my friends than our relationship. When he tried to talk about it, I kicked him out with no warning. That was the narrative. No blocked contacts, no deleted messages, no manipulation. Just poor, heartbroken Ryan, the abandoned boyfriend. I wasn't interested in fighting a public war. But when one woman reached out privately, I responded honestly. One message. One time, Ryan went into my phone without permission. He blocked my closest friends, deleted years of messages, and hid it for weeks. That's why the relationship ended. Nothing more, nothing less. The truth traveled faster than Ryan expected. Within hours, he texted me, "You're telling people my private business?" I stared at the message. Private business? The man who secretly invaded my phone was talking about privacy. The irony nearly gave me a headache. I didn't respond. Then something happened that genuinely caught me off guard. 4 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it. For some reason, I answered. "Hello," a woman's voice responded. "Hi, Tracy. My name is Dr. Emily Parker. I'm a licensed therapist." I sat up straighter, immediately uneasy. She continued, "I work with Ryan. He asked me to contact you." My stomach dropped. The therapist explained that Ryan had missed appointments and stopped responding to messages. She wanted to know if he was okay. At first, I felt concerned. Despite everything, I didn't want him hurt. But then one sentence kept echoing in my head. "Ryan asked me to contact you. Not his mother, not his sister. Me." After the call ended, I sat in silence for almost an hour. Something about it felt wrong, calculated, familiar. Ryan had my number. Lauren had my number. His mother had my number. If he wanted to reach me, he could. Instead, he had a therapist call. Why? The answer came slowly, like a puzzle piece sliding into place. Because a therapist carries authority, concern, urgency. A therapist calling makes you worry, makes you feel responsible, makes you wonder if someone is falling apart because of you. And suddenly, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Exactly what he wanted. That night Madison called. I told her everything. Long silence. Then she asked a question that changed everything. "Tracy." "What? Are you sure you're the first person he's done this to?" The room went still. I hadn't considered it. Not really. But now, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The criticism, the isolation, the manipulation, the therapist. It all felt practiced, like lines from a script he'd memorized years ago. The next morning I started searching, and by late afternoon I found someone, Ryan's ex-girlfriend, a woman named Ava. We had met briefly once at a party years ago. At the time, she had seemed quiet, tired, almost relieved to be gone. I sent her a message. She replied less than 20 minutes later, and the very first thing she asked made my blood run cold. "Did Ryan start by telling you your friends were a bad influence too?" Ava called me that evening. The first 10 minutes felt like listening to my own story. Ryan had criticized her friends, then questioned their intentions, then convinced her they were holding her back. Eventually, she stopped seeing them altogether. When she finally confronted him, he used the exact same words, "for your own good." Word for word. Then came the part that made my stomach drop. After their breakup, Ryan had also used a therapist to reestablish contact. Ava admitted she went back to him for 2 months because she felt guilty and responsible for his emotional well-being. The pattern was real. And suddenly everything made sense. I wasn't special. I wasn't the exception. I was simply the next chapter. The next morning, I documented everything. Dates, screenshots, the deleted contacts, the therapist call, the messages, the doorbell footage. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted a record. A version of events that couldn't be rewritten later. Then I sent a polite email asking Ryan's therapist not to contact me again. Professional, respectful, final. After that, I called each of my 4 friends individually. I apologized. For the missed Thursdays, the distance, the silence, the doubt. Madison laughed. Tracy, you're back. That's all we care about. A few weeks later, Ryan's story started falling apart on its own. People began asking questions. Questions he didn't want to answer. Even his mother reached out unexpectedly. She didn't defend him. She simply texted, "I'm sorry things ended this way. I always thought you were good for him." It wasn't an apology for what happened, but it was enough. The strangest part? I don't hate Ryan. I genuinely don't. I just understand him now. And understanding someone doesn't mean giving them access to your life. Thursday nights eventually returned. Wine, wings, bad jokes. The same 4 women who had been there since I was 17. The same 4 women Ryan tried to erase. One night I came home after laughing until my stomach hurt and sat alone in my apartment. For the first time in months, everything felt normal. Not perfect, just normal. And I realized something. The people who truly love you never ask you to abandon the people who loved you first. If someone slowly convinces you that your support system is the problem, pay attention. Because isolation rarely starts with blocked numbers. It starts with tiny comments, tiny doubts, tiny compromises, until one day you wake up and realize you're standing alone. Thankfully, I didn't stay there. My friends were still waiting. And this time, I wasn't letting anyone take them away.